Forget about Jason, forget about Freddy Krueger, forget about Michael Myers. This Halloween, the scariest thing going for Bucks fans is the play of the now 1-4 Milwaukee Bucks after losing 122-99 to the Memphis Grizzlies. Was it more of the same old issues playing the Bucks in this game, or are there additional cracks forming? Let's discuss all of that and some more on the other side of the intro.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What it do? Welcome to Locked On Bucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Camille Davis. You can catch me weekly on the Technical Foul Podcast as well as the Pack a Day Podcast. I'm running solo dolo. It's just me, Oos, today. My schedule made it a little complicated to get Frank or Justin on, so rolling solo. But regardless of such, I appreciate you for tuning in. I really do thank you for making Locked On Bucks your first listen every day, even after losses like this one. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, as well as on YouTube. In addition to having the podcast, we're also in a newsletter form as well. We have the Locked On Bucks daily newsletter. It's your one-stop shop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox daily. Sign up for free right now at lockedondaily.com. Again, that's lockedondaily.com, and start your day off with the all new free Locked On Bucks newsletter. You can also start the season off with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, ladies and gentlemen, where do we start? Where do we start in this game where, once again, that's 4 in a row now for the Milwaukee Bucks that they have dropped? We can go offense, we can go defense. Both sides of the ball suffered. So why don't we start with offense? Because I feel like most people, when they look at the box score for this game, what they're going to point to is a 3-point discrepancy between these teams, where it's like, man, look at how poorly the Bucks shot from three tonight against the Grizzlies. And you look at it and you're like, yeah, they did shoot poorly. 9 of 42 from three as a team. That's 21.4% from three. 21% from three. And to keep it real, the Bucks 3-point shooting has gotten progressively worse each game so far this season. Against Philly to open up the season, the Bucks shot 43%. Then against the Bulls, 33%. Then against the Nets, 30%. Then against the Celtics, 26%. And now against the Grizzlies, 21%. One would argue and one could hope that there's going to be a regression to the mean for the Bucks in a positive way, meaning that it's going to swing back in their direction. But even yet and still, I can't point to the 3-point shooting alone as the reason that the Bucks lost this game. It's a reason, it's a part of the puzzle, right? But it's not the full picture, because yes, you missed all those shots. You're going to give the other team some opportunities to get back in transition. So yes, your misses can lead to transition, but yet and still, that just means you better get back and play some transition defense. We'll save the defense part because we're going to talk a lot more about how the Bucks defense looked in this game. But the 3-point shooting, another reason I won't say it's completely that for this particular loss is because the Bucks actually made one more 3-pointer in this game than did the Grizzlies. Again, the Bucks were 9 of 42 from three, but the Grizzlies were 8 of 28. So yeah, the Grizzlies shot fewer volume on those threes. So they had a better percentage, but the Bucks made one more three than did the Grizzlies. And that wasn't the case that we saw in the last three losses for the Bucks. Against the Bulls hit 8 more threes than the Bucks. Against the Nets hit 6 more threes than the Bucks. Against the Celtics, they hit 10 more threes than the Bucks. So in this one, yes, the Bucks missed a lot of threes, but at least they didn't make less than what the Grizzlies made in this particular game. And guys were getting really good looks. They just weren't falling for them. You had Taurean Prince, 1 of 6 tonight. He's a career 38% shooter. You don't expect that from him. That's his worst shooting game so far as a Buck on this young season. You had Dame, 0 for 6 from three tonight. All in all, Dame just didn't shoot the ball well tonight. He was 1 of 12 from the field overall. Scottie Pippen Jr. was putting that man in jail. The Grizzlies had really good full court pressure on Dame, made him uncomfortable tonight. But again, 0 for 6 from 3. Career 37% three-point shooter. He shot 35% for the Bucks last year. You don't expect to see that from Dame. And he's somebody who has struggled since that Philly game as well. He started off 6 of 12 against Philly, 50% from the field. Then against Chicago, 3 of 12. Brooklyn, 1 of 7. Boston, 2 of 8. Tonight against the Grizzlies, 0 for 6. So you got to see that shooting turn for Dame for sure. Gary Trent Jr., 0 for 7 tonight from 3. Bobby Portis, 1 of 5 from 3 tonight. Pat Connaughton, 1 of 5 from 3 tonight. And this isn't the first game that Pat Connaughton has shot 1 of 5 from 3 so far this season. This is actually the third game where Pat Connaughton has shot 1 of 5 from 3. He did it against Philly, Chicago, and now Memphis. All in all, the Bucks have to make some more shots. And again, they were good looks. So I'm not mad at the shot selection. They just weren't falling for the Bucks. And I would expect that trend to turn. But one trend for the Bucks that I was surprised to see in this game was just how they lost that free throw battle against the Grizzlies. We know that the Bucks are a team that prides themselves on getting to the free throw line a lot. And against Boston, that was something that kind of kept them in the game, being able to have so many attempts at that free throw line when their shot wasn't falling. But against the Grizzlies made 10 more free throws than the Bucks. They shot 12 more free throws than the Bucks. The Bucks have to do a better job of playing defense without fouling. Now, some of the calls, you can say they were a little questionable. You can say the refs might not have been calling the game the same both ways, but regardless of such, the Bucks have to adjust and they have to play defense without fouling. And again, some of the misses, because when you miss so many times, you're going to give the other team a chance to make some buckets in transition. And they did. But again, the Bucks have to be stronger in that area. After the game, Giannis was talking about just the offense in the game in itself. And he mentioned the fact, look, all the looks that we got, they were clean. They were clean looks. They just didn't go in. But at the end of the day, that's not the reason that we lost. He pointed out the fact as well. They made 8 threes. We made 9. Free throws, we got to be better. We got to defend without fouling. Giannis also mentioned the fact that he said the Bucks need to shoot more threes as a team. Mentioned the fact that he believed that they were 29th in the league and that they're not shooting enough threes and they're not giving themselves a chance to really win these games. And when you look at the 3 points attempts for the Bucks against the Nets and the Celtics, definitely can see that. You had 33 attempts against the Nets. You had 31 against the Celtics. Probably want to see it around that 40 mark, which they did cross against the Grizzlies. So letting it fly wasn't the problem tonight. It was just the fact that those shots were not falling for the Bucks. So the offense was a mess outside of Giannis, who looked fantastic tonight, right? 37 points for Giannis, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, and a block on the night. He played with so much energy, so much effort. It just needed a little bit more from some other teammates, and they needed a lot more on the defensive side of the ball, which there are so many things to get into when it comes to that defense. We've been talking about it on this show, talking about transition defense, talking about the Bucks needing to limit offensive rebounds for the other team. Are these areas in this game that the Bucks did better, or are there other new cracks forming? Going to dive in deeper on this Bucks defense right after this. I so much love playing FanDuel, and it's the NFL season, so it's really time to tackle that NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sports app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you have a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, and you can view live play-by-play and so much more on the same page where you actually place your bets. You want to talk about convenience? That's that. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. So head over to FanDuel.com. Again, FanDuel.com, FanDuel.com. So never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports partner of the NFL. This Bucks defense. A struggle in many, many different ways. We're going to start with transition defense because that has been an area of concern for this Milwaukee Bucks team for some time now. When Doc Rivers came in during the middle of the season last year, taking over from Adrian Griffin, one of the things that he pointed to was how poor the Bucks were in transition defense. He has talked about this for a while now. It's not new, right? So it's baffling as to why it's not getting better, because you can't control your makes and your misses. All you can do offensively is try to set yourself up, take the best shot possible, and then you live with the result. But you can control how you defend. You can control the effort. You can control just your overall awareness of what's going on. You can control the fact that when you missed your shot, you don't stand there and keep looking at the rim like, oh man, I missed that shot. You need to get back. The discipline required to play good transition defense, the Bucks just have to get better at it. And after the game, of course, Doc Rivers was asked about this again, because how could you not? Like, how could you not ask about this? And Doc Rivers said, quote, I thought we played with the right spirit. We didn't make shots, and you're going to have nights like that. But on those nights, we have to find ways to get stops. And I don't know how many times they advanced the pass and beat us down the floor, but they probably did it like 8 or 10 times on the makes that we did make. So again, the situation that we saw last year with teams that can really push the pace, fast-paced teams. The Pacers come to mind. Think about that playoff series. These teams have given the Bucks problems because they just don't seem to know what to do or how to get back and play that properly. Doc was then asked if there is some type of fundamental problem with the transition defense, since it's something that has been a focus of his since he's taken over the coaching reins, right? And when he was asked, like, what is the fundamental, like, what's the problem? He's like, it's just period. And then Doc added, it's on us to demand more, pointed out more, which we're doing. And at some point, there has to be consequences for it. Just too many times they ran behind us today, over and over again. I mean, bigs running behind us for lobs. That just can't happen. It's not like we don't work on that every day, but we're not working on it well enough, because if we were, they wouldn't be doing it. And again, I keep going back to me. There's something that they're not hearing that I'm telling them, and I got to do a better job, end quote. So one, for those of you who are out there, I was like, hey, Doc be throwing everybody under the bus. At least he's looking at himself saying, hey, as the coaching staff, as an industry record label, we ain't doing what we need to be doing. Something's getting lost communication for the Bucks between what the coaching staff is telling them to do and how they're actually executing it on the court. So they have to figure that out. What stood out to me from when Doc was talking about this was when he said, and at some point there has to be consequences for it. And I do wonder if the possible consequences for it are that some of the guys who you see out there getting the playing time, they start seeing those numbers reduced for other guys to get an opportunity. Because one thing we did see in this game, again, was some early Andre Jackson Jr. Now, Andre ended up finishing the game with 19 total minutes, 5 fouls. So he is somebody who makes sure that he is going to go right up to that limit of the 6 fouls that he has and use those throughout the game. But he has to get better. Again, like I said in the first segment, get better at playing defense without fouling. He had one in the first quarter or second quarter when he checked in where it was an off-ball foul, but they were already in the bonus. So here goes some free throws. Like, you can't put yourself in those situations. Like, you're giving up points at that point. And again, you keep fouling people, you put them in the bonus, and now they're going to be shooting the rest of the way. You can't have that. You got to clean it up. And if Andre can find a way to play more without fouling, the energy that he brings, the effort that he brings, it is contagious. Because you think about the second quarter, the Bucks went into the second quarter down 16. The lineup that opened up the quarter, I believe it was Wright, Pat Connaughton, Andre Jackson Jr., Bobby Portis, and Giannis. And they were able to really get something going. DeLon Wright, he's someone who I mentioned has been underwhelming to me a little bit, but this was this was his best game as a Buck so far in this young season. He played 21 minutes tonight. He was plus 10, one of the few Bucks with a positive plus minus in this game. He was 2 of 2 from 3, which they needed that. They needed that in a big way. He played some really good defense. He had a block. He has a couple of assists. He looked far more comfortable in this game. So maybe he is somebody you see more of as well. But they have to be better also at the point of attack. The point of attack defense was getting cooked. And again, let's be fair here. Let's give credit where credit is due, because Ja Morant is a tough cover. The way that that man can move with the ball, off ball, like he is just so quick and dynamic and shifty. He is really, really hard to guard. I became a Ja fan when I saw him cook Marquette in March Madness. I was like, dog, he is cooking us right now. And after that day, I've been a fan of Ja. I love watching Ja hoop. I just hate to see him looking this good against the Bucks. I hate to see him looking this good against the Bucks. I mean, at halftime, he nearly had a triple-double at halftime. He had 21 points, 9 assists, 8 rebounds at the half. Finished the night with that triple-double, 26, 14, and 10. They just didn't really have any answers for Ja. A lot of teams won't, because he is that dynamic, but he was able to get whatever he wanted from wherever he wanted on the court. Even Scottie Pippen Jr. was able to cause some havoc on ball, just taking guys off the dribble. So the Bucks have to shore up at the point of attack, because there are a lot of dynamic guards in the league. Gary Trent Jr. has been really good defensively. I shouldn't say really good. He's been good defensively this season. He's had some up and down performances, but something about Ja, that matchup was rough for Gary Trent Jr. So the Bucks have to figure out how to play against some more dynamic guards as well. Who can they bring in to be that point of attack defense? That's the question, right? You have Gary Trent Jr. as an option. You have Taurean Prince, who guards might be a little too quick for him. Taurean Prince seems to do better against other forwards. You have Andre Jackson Jr. as somebody off the bench defensively. You have DeLon Wright. So like the Bucks have to figure out what's the proper trigger to pull with who they currently have on this roster. In addition to that, the Bucks gave up too many points in the paint, which, as we know, the Bucks, they look at the paint as like hollowed ground. They do not like giving up anything in the paint. And the Grizzlies scored almost 70 points in the paint tonight. 68 Grizzly points in the paint. After the game, again, Doc Rivers mentioned the fact that we just got to go back to the drawing board defensively, not overhaul anything. We're not panicking about that, but we got to do things better. Not panicking. You like to hear that? Because again, it is early. But yeah, something has to change defensively with this team. Something's not clicking. So they have to figure out a way to communicate better. The players have to come out themselves with better emphasis, because you can hear them post game. You can hear Dame. You can hear Brooke. You can hear Giannis. They know what they're supposed to be doing. Giannis mentioned the fact that they're going over film. They're talking. They're holding each other accountable. They're doing all of the things that you would hope a team is doing. When they're trying to figure it out, it just hasn't clicked for them yet. So they have to try to find an answer defensively to be more consistent. I'm not asking for the Bucks to come out here and be a top 5 defense or anything like that, but they cannot be a bottom 5 defense either. You know, like we've been saying, if they can just figure out a way to be average at defense and great offensively, they can have something cooking here. But as we saw in this game against the Grizzlies, the offense, they just could knock down some shots tonight, and defensively they were getting beat. So like, even on nights where it's not going for you offensively, you got to find ways to get stops, and the Bucks were not able to do that tonight. So it's been a lot of conversation so far on this episode about what's gone wrong for the Bucks. And I want to try to end it with some optimism, I guess you could say, some positivity, some things to look forward to, some things to try to just get out this funk. Because as a Bucks fan, someone who's interested in this team, you start on such a high from winning that first game against Philly, regardless of the fact that there was no Embiid and no Paul George. Regardless of that fact, you won on the road in Philly, and then you drop your next 4. That's tough. That's tough. You can't continue to slide down the standings while you're trying to figure out, because yes, it is early. There is time. And it's not the West, where in the Western Conference, you know, these losses, they hit a little differently because of the competition level, but you don't want to fall too far behind. So are there any bright spots for this Bucks team? We're going to explore that after this. There is nothing like catching the game live. With the NBA season in full swing, Game Time is the place to go for all of your ticketing needs. Game Time isn't just clutch for NBA tickets or sporting events. You can check out Game Time for all events. Whatever it is, Game Time will have you covered for that. Plus, Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. One of my personal favorite Game Time features is being able to see my view from my seat before I actually get the ticket. I like to know what I'm going to get before I get there, especially if it's a place I'm not familiar with. So why don't you take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks? Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Let me just take a quick moment to say, again, truly do appreciate y'all for tuning in to Locked On Bucks. Special shout out to all the everydayers who tune in Monday through Friday, who tune in regardless of a win or a loss. They just tune in. So shout out to all the everydayers. So the bright side, trying to find it, right? Mention Giannis. He played well, and this is coming off of a couple games where it was debatable about some of the effort and decision-making for Giannis. He came out really focused. Like the moment in the second when the quarter opens, and I mentioned earlier in the show, when the Bucks were down 16, Giannis checked out of that game with about 5 minutes left in the second quarter. And at that point, it was a 7-point Grizzlies lead. But when he came back into the game, the Grizzlies were leading by 14. It was just tough for the Bucks to figure out a way to cut that down. But Giannis played well, so I do want to highlight the game that he had. Also, a problem that we have seen with the Bucks so far this season is giving up too many offensive rebounds and also turning the ball over too much. That wasn't the case in this game. The Bucks won the turnover battle, and they were able to generate more offensive possessions. And when I say generate more offensive possessions, I'm pointing to the Celtics game where Doc Rivers was like, hey, they shot 17 more times than us. Like, it's hard when they get that many more offensive possessions than what we get. Against the Grizzlies, the Bucks were able to generate more baskets or more shot attempts, I should say, than what the Grizzlies were able to do. So you like to see that. You love to see the fact that the Bucks only had 10 turnovers that led to 14 Grizzly points. Meanwhile, the Grizzlies had 17 turnovers that led to 31 Bucks points. So the Bucks were able to score off of Grizzlies turnovers, and they were able to limit theirs somewhat against the Grizzlies. So I like to see that because turnovers have been a problem for this team. They still had a couple in the game where it was just acclamation turnovers. Expecting someone to be in one place, they're somewhere else. Pass a little too high, a little too low, just a little bit off. So again, there are things to clean up, but at least the Bucks didn't lose a turnover battle in the way that we have seen them doing so far this season. Also, the offensive glass wasn't as much of a problem in this game as it has been in the past. The Bucks only allowed 7 offensive rebounds to the Grizzlies. A positive, right? Help limit that a bit. But again, there were just so many other things going on where it's like when you point to the team, say, hey, what's wrong with them? There's so many different things you can point to. But at least in this game against the Grizzlies, you can't point to the turnovers as much, and you can't point to the offensive glass. So those are 2 areas where the Bucks have had a concerted effort. They've gotten better at it. One thing I will say about the offensive glass, though, they have to be more disciplined and organized about who's going to be crashing, right? You don't need Dame or other guards crashing in that sense. You need your bigs to be able to handle that on their own so that those guys can get back and kind of help that transition defense a bit more. But we're not talking about negatives right here in this. We're talking about some positives, right? 4 of the first 5 Bucks games this season were on the road. And November is going to be a very home-heavy month for the Bucks. So that should work in their favor somewhat. The Bucks will have 10 games at home in November and only 4 on the road. So again, very home-heavy. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be easy. Nobody said it's going to be easy. Shout out to Coldplay. But at least you're going to be at home. You're going to be able to sleep in your own bed. Teams tend to play better at home as well. So while they're figuring all this stuff out early in the season, it'll be good to get those games at home. The players got to stick together. Like, it's early in the season. Fans can overreact all that they want to because they're fans. They can do what they want. But this team, these players, they have to stick together. They have to continue to be disciplined. They have to continue to hold each other accountable. And on top of that, I'm hoping that Doc Rivers actually follows through when he said there has to be consequences to guys not executing properly. Other guys should get a shot. AJ Green can get a shot. More Andre Jackson Jr. can get a shot. Again, he got to stop fouling as much, but he might be able to earn himself into another shot if guys aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. So we're going to have to keep an eye on the rotations going forward to see if there are any consequences to guys not executing the way they need to. But for the Bucks, what's up next? It's not easy. The Bucks have the Cleveland Cavaliers on Saturday. And the Cavaliers, as of this recording, are 5-0. Now, they are going to be playing the Magic Friday night, so they're going to see the Bucks on the second night of a back-to-back. But, I mean, the Grizzlies just saw the Bucks on the second night of a back-to-back as well, and the Grizzlies were playing some outstanding ball. And I should also say I'm not really surprised at that because they just had some tough losses in Memphis as well. And the way that Ja was responding to reporters, I had a feeling he was going to come out with extra focus and that this Grizzly team was really going to try to put it together, even though they were without Desmond Bane, without Marcus Smart, and without some other key players. But moving forward, looking forward, the Cavs are up next. And the Cavs have the best net rating in the league, plus 18.5. Plus 18.5. They're out here with a 124.5 offensive rating and a 105.9 defensive rating. That's the third best defensive rating in the league right now. They also forced turnovers at a really good rate. They're fourth in turnover percentage at 19.1 in the league. They're going to be tough. They're not a team that gets to the free throw line a lot, but they have been a really efficient offense to start the season regardless. They're even shooting 61.2% effective field goal percentage as a team so far this season. So it's not going to be easy. That's part of the reason why the losses to the Bulls and the Nets stung so much, because we understood, looking at the first 10 games of the season for the Milwaukee Bucks, they had the fourth most difficult schedule in the league based on last year's records. So again, losing to the Bulls, losing to the Nets, that hurts because those aren't even two of the teams that are really tipping that equation and making it difficult for the Bucks. So they're going to have to just get ready and figure it out. And they're going to have to figure it out against some really good competition because this is a home and home against the Cavaliers. You have them at home on Saturday, and then you see them again on Monday in Cleveland. So listen, y'all, it's been rough in Bucks land, right? I'm not going to lie to you. It's been disappointing. It's been frustrating, disappointing for this team. Absolutely. The season is still early. They got to show us something, though. They got to show us some life. Giannis showed us some life tonight. We saw some life from DeLon Wright. We got to see some more from some other guys. We need more from Dame. And Dame, listen, we know all the stuff that he put into this season. I'm not really worried about him figuring it out. I got confidence in Dame figuring it out. But this whole team has to figure a lot of things out collectively. Like, I might not be individually worried about Dame offensively, but this team as a whole has to figure it out. So, yeah, y'all, we still going to be here regardless of a win, of a loss. We going to be here Monday through Friday, and next week we'll kick it off. There'll be someone here with me. I'm probably Justin kicking it off on that Monday show next week, but Frank will be back in the rotation. Justin will be here. We'll make sure to keep y'all covered with all the latest news around the Milwaukee Bucks. And hopefully this weekend, we get a Chris Middleton signing. Maybe, possibly, who knows? He's been close for a while now. Is it soon? Is this soon enough for him to come back against Cleveland? It would be a big boost to this Bucks team, given how top heavy this roster is and how much they tend to need from Giannis, from Dame, from Chris. So hopefully to get him back, he will be a boost. But if you're somebody out there who thinks that Chris Middleton coming back alone will solve all of the Bucks' problems, it's not. It's not. They still have to be stronger defensively at the point of attack. They have to be stronger in transition defense. They have to be better defensively. They have to also offensively not press. The shot's not falling. Don't press. You have to continue to play your game. So hopefully this is the low point of the early season run for the Bucks, and they can turn it around against the Cleveland Cavaliers. But that'll do it for this episode of Locked On Bucks. Let me know in the comments how y'all feeling about this team, how y'all think they might look against Cleveland, and also what you think the biggest concern of the team is at this point in the season. We got a lot of season to go. It's a marathon. Thankfully, it's not a sprint. Thankfully, the standings as they stand today do not indicate where they will be at the end of the year. So maybe you can take some solace in that. Maybe not. Maybe I'm being too positive, whatever you want to call it. Just a perspective for you to consider. So yeah, let me know in the comments how you feel about it. And we'll be back with some more Locked On Bucks next week. Y'all have a safe weekend and take care.